The mental health month has begun. The recording is in progress. I got to get that off my screen. Sarah, thank you so much for that introduction. Very cool to be introduced that way. It's weird to hear like a list of things like that. It's always kind of humbling to think like, well, okay, well, that's magna cum laude. What? I don't know. So, but I do think you forgot a couple of things. Normally at conferences, right, we have, need to get we're going to be a month together, every Monday for this month. So we need to know where the bathrooms are. We need to know where the drink fountain is. So if you'll turn around to the back of your house, that's kind of a joke, guys. Yeah, no, we are going to be spending a month together, and I'm excited and very honored to have the honor of starting out the month and we're going to end the month together. So I didn't tell the guys this, but this came exactly last second. I got this about, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes ago. so yeah, there you go. I got it. And on the back, I love what it says. It's a bit of a theme for the conference, I guess. Ask me about my superpowers. So I want to talk about that a little bit today. And what a cool introduction of the power that we have in needing to talk about these things with mental health when you look at the news. So Sarah, thank you for highlighting that energy, because it really is a big deal. And I am passionate since 1995 working with these issues. It's gotten better. We're all paying a little bit of attention. We never really used to pay attention to mental health. It used to be, something that just didn't exist. It didn't get discussed. Still in some cultures today around the world, still doesn't exist, still doesn't get discussed. And that drives me nuts. So I want to break that down through this whole Through a Therapist's Eyes platform that I'm trying to build, because I want to blow up stereotypes, myths, and stigmas about mental health and disseminate a lot of information. So I guess today we're disseminating some information. Now, let me kind of start out making sure you understand my style. I like interaction. So I don't want to force anybody that's comfortable doing what I'm about to suggest do. If not, that's fine too. But put your videos on so we can see each other interacting. Here's why I have this kind of style, right? I want to use the power in the room. I think we all have experience. We all have, a togetherness and a connection. That's the theme. There's one coming up. Anybody else that wants to put their video on, that'd be cool. I kind of feel like, long ago when I was a kid, now it's going to date me a little bit, but I think of Phil Donahue. How many people, by raise of hands, but I got to see some videos, right? Pop your videos up. How many people, raise of hands, remember Phil Donahue? Anybody know who he is? Okay, but there's some videos coming on. I like it. All right, let's raise some hands if you don't know who Phil Donahue is. There's a thumbs up icon. Anybody doesn't know who Phil Donahue is? Okay, there's one. There's one. That's it. One. We need some more videos. He was a dynamic facilitator. The guy facilitated topics on daytime TV, and he was basically Oprah before Oprah became Oprah, right? A couple head nods. Everyone know who Oprah Winfrey is, right? Okay. So this is why, to me, it's really powerful for us to interact, to engage. And I know it's challenging on a Zoom platform, but we're getting more used to it. Seeing a couple more faces come up, that's cool. If you want to do your video, do a chat, say hello. You got a chat button. I want to test that out. So how do we say hello on the chat button? You type HELLO. How about if we pop a couple of those? I don't see any yet, I don't think. Still looking for some. There's one, there's two, there's three, there's four, but there's a lot more people. Hi, hello, hello. Actually, I said type hello. You can type hey, you can type hey ho. Good job. Okay. Ask questions in there. They will help me to answer these things. So when we're talking and we've got thoughts and things, let's get a little back and forth. I'm very, very, very open to that. I guess we can't have all the mics on because it'd be a bunch of just cacophony, but I'm actually okay with that. If anybody makes a decision to put the mics on, we can do that as well. So thank you, Sarah, Jane Milton, Lisa Allen, and Kelly. You guys have set this up, and I hope you guys really appreciate what they're doing, because as we started off in the front end, like, this is a big deal. This is not a simple deal. This is something that we all deal with when it comes to mental health. And, I always say mental health and substance abuse, because those issues of substance abuse just blend totally together with mental health. So I don't want to, I don't know if we need to have a substance abuse month. What would that be? September Substance Abuse Month? but they really go a lot hand in hand. So there's a theme that I want to also lay out with this superheroes thing. Okay. Awesome BSW student came up with this. I forget what her name was, but very creative mind. Love BSW students. Congratulations on retiring here in just a fast minute. Keep going. Get an MSW. There, it's an awesome to see new social workers coming along. Yeah, I see a head nod. Love it. Okay, so superpowers as humans is a theme. You know, everyone loves their their superpowers, their superheroes. The Marvel versus Neil. I think you have a microphone. You might be able to help me out. What's Marvel Comics and what's the other one?
DC.
Anybody? DC. Thank you. Yes. Yeah, we got Marvel and DC, but we have so many superheroes, and people talk about their superhuman strength, their superpowers. We really have them. And so I want to highlight that with our mental health to balance out, whether you're from the DC land or the Marvel land, we all really have these things that we could take advantage of, and we're becoming more and more aware of the need to do that with mental health and substance abuse. So I titled this to some extent the subtitle, are sometimes hidden superpower as humans, right? The ability to manage emotions. Okay, that's a big deal. Now that sounds simple, but you know, people get really intimidated by that. It's funny to me, I know as a therapist, right? But you know, I deal with it all day long. But when you really think about answering the question, how do you manage your emotions? People struggle. people really struggle to know what to do, to know how to manage that, to know, you know, and therefore many of us don't even want to bring it up. We don't have important conversations. So that is a superpower. If you harness your own internal ability to manage mental health and or substance abuse, of which we all have, then you're going to be way ahead of the game. To the facilitators, if anybody pops in the chat with a question, I can't see it really great because I'm standing up and back, so help me out. Just pop up, interrupt me. Please interrupt me. That would be more than fine. So how can this be hidden, right? I don't think people really become aware of doing what we do it all day long. Every single moment of every single day, we have emotions and we're managing them, whether we realize it or not. And that's why I think there's a hidden nature to this that we want to bring out into the awareness, which is part of what we're going to do today. I think this can be really demonstrated by what I have seen, you know, as a major fear in therapy, right? People are straight up afraid to come see me. Now I got to see some head nods. Maybe some more videos will pop on. Do I look scary? There's some smiles. No one's creepy. No one's like, oh my God, yes. I hope. And I'm not sure. I'm not. I like to have fun. I like to goof off. She introduced me. I'm from West Virginia, just a West Virginia boy talking about emotions all day in the therapy office. But people come to my therapy office in an incredibly intimidating emotional state. Like, wow, when I say I'm humbled to do what I do, and I'm respectful about that, it's such an honor is what I tell people. It's because I know in many times they might be coming to my session to talk about things that they may have never talked about in their life. Think about that. Like, wow, right? Who am I, a little West Virginia boy, to do that? Or they may be coming at a desperate time feeling like this is their last resort. You know, I forget the name because I try to stay out of the news, but there was a suicide in the news that she just highlighted. Talk about last resort, right? Like, people are really intimidated to do what we're going to talk about, not only today, but this whole month. So I do have the honor of setting up this month. Let me tell you what's going to happen today. Right. So today we're going to talk about depression and anxiety a little bit. And we're going to talk about depression and social isolation, because, man, when you're dealing with the aging population and the caregiving roles that we have, that is a huge reality that everyone's dealing with. After that, love it, by the way, not many people think about addiction and recovery. So in the third week, we'll talk about that. And then good old fashioned grief is what I said to myself. Good old fashioned grief, like something that we all experience. And then actually, I got the honor of kind of coming in at the end and talking about a huge list of major list rather of tools, a huge list of specific tools, which is what everybody comes to me in therapy talking about. I can't tell you how many times presenting problems people say, oh, I'm here to get strategies. I'm here to get tools. And I've developed a list of like 70 of them at this point. So we're going to have fun this month. I join you. And I'm looking forward to having all this fun with the theme of developing our superpowers, right? So what I want to do is ask you all the way through the month to begin thinking about what can I really pick up, right? What can I really pick up that will help me with my experiences with mental health, whether it be depression, just a little bit bummed feeling, or whether it be social isolation, whether it be just the stress. We're also going to talk about stress today, okay? So how are we doing so far? Everybody with me? Chat boxes? Do we need to do hello again? Any questions or thoughts people have? Good, some stuff. Well, there's more hellos. So let's explore depression for a little bit, but let me back up and make a really important point that I think about a lot. And I call this the tale of two tapes. Okay, so it's an overview of mental health. Okay, on the one side, you have what I call, or what is called, just biological realities, right? Genetics are involved, exercise is involved, nutrition's involved, your neurotransmitters, your neurons, neurological like there's a lot of biological realities that drive how it is that we feel. Okay. On the other side of the continuum, you've got social and emotional realities. These are life experiences, life's relationships, daily stress, the grind, right? So that also drives how it is that we feel. So you take the biological, the social and emotional, and they dynamically blend together to create what it is that we're experiencing. So it's interesting that we have in our vernacular in culture nowadays, right? People talk about mental health. People talk about some of these things, but there's lots of confusion out there about it. So there's a great distinction that I want to make about conditions that people have. Now, we're going to talk about depression today, and we're going to talk about anxiety, and we're going to talk about stress. That's a perfect example. Stress, which side would you think is that on? Stress that we have. Is that genetic, biological, or is that social and emotional? Go ahead and pop some chats there. Is that social or biological? Bio, social. What do you think? Give me some chats. There we go. Social, 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 social. Both. Somebody says both. Very good. You know what? That is a dynamic reality. I would think it's on the social side of it, but didn't that affect your biological? See how amazingly that mixes together? Who said both? Kelly, rocking, right? Somebody else said both behind you, actually. Crystal, right? That's an important distinction. The biggest distinction I'm trying to draw right now, though, is these conditions, this biological side. When we're talking about depression, we're not talking about having a bad day, right? When we're talking about anxiety, we're not talking about being stressed out. We're talking about things like major depression. We're talking about things like dysthymia disorder. We're talking about things like OCD and generalized anxiety. There's these real realities that people are facing that are conditions biologically, like your body's literally fighting against you. So that is a big distinction that I want to make between just basic life, social and emotional issues we have, and then the real harder biological things where your body's driving, how you're feeling. Okay. So let's look at depression for just a little bit. Depression. What do we mean by depression? Now, we had some notes, by the way, earlier on. You might have received that. You can make notes as you go along. I think that's a cool thing that we created. And then there's the main points that you'll be able to get that later. But I want to see if there's a life experience. I'm going to be impressed if there's any guesses here that gets this. Can you think of a life experience that you have? I'll give you a hint. You're going to be talking about it this week that kind of mimics depression. So it sort of follows along the same lines. Any guesses? Like I said, it's going to be one of the things you talk about this week. Anybody who's got verbal, you can pop up and chat. Any guesses on this? Depression is like getting old. Yeah, that's a good guess. That was Karen. Anyone else with a guess? That's not it, though. Losing a loved one. That's pretty close. There it is. Kim nailed it, right? I have helped many people understand what these things are in the mental health field, right? That to gain appreciation of maybe a loved one or maybe themselves. Grief is exactly mimicking what happens with depression. And I'll tell you where I found this. There's this really cool, back in my younger days as a clinician, this cool experience that I had where we were living up in the Chapel Hill area, and we had a Russian foreign exchange student, right? And he was really cool. His name was Aga. He was totally Russian. I mean, he was like he just came off a boat or whatever. I guess obviously at that point a plane. That was another joke, right? Laughs, chuckles. Zoom's so funny because we can't hear each other. So Aga was our neighbor, liked his vodka, hung out. We went and shot pool. We developed a friendship. I didn't like the vodka thing so much, but he went through a very, very difficult time when he broke up with this girl that he was dating. Now, mind you, I was just fresh out of school. So it was kind of just fascinating to me, this whole world of mental health and all these ways that we find ourselves kind of moving in and out of like emotional experiences, right? And this is a guy that, I mean, he spoke, I mean, you could hear him and understand him pretty well, but he was very, very Russian. So that is a completely different culture. Like I loved talking to him about his culture and learning. And, you know, we had many talks about like, you know, what's America like? What's Russia like? It was really cool. But when it came to him having a hard time with the loss of his girlfriend, guess what? Exactly the same kind of experiences that I have had in my life, right? That we have all had. Loss of appetite, couldn't sleep, foggy brain, you couldn't think straight, loss of energy, interesting things just didn't seem interesting, okay? Sex drive goes down, appetite goes down or up, by the way, right? Like there's these very specific things that are experienced actually with grief, and it exactly mimics depression. So we can really have an easy job understanding what depression is because we've all pretty much grieved something in our life. So that gives you a little bit of a tip. But here's the bummer part about this genetic part of depression. Grief you manage, and it kind of takes time. It's always a process. There's no real time frame, but it will naturally diminish. Can you imagine being in a grief-stricken state, like a bad one, like not a 3 or a 4, but like an 8, 9, or a 10? Each one of those symptoms are really powerful, and they just seem like they never end. That's what's crazy about depression, that like a clinical diagnosable experience with depression. It's very, very powerful. As a matter of fact, a lot of times people can't really understand, how do I get to be suicidal? Where does that come from? Well, I'll tell you exactly a lot of times where that comes from. It comes from the idea that I know I cannot continue to live and feel like I'm feeling. I know that. Number one. Number two, I have tried so many daggum things trying to figure out what can I do to feel better just for a little while. And I hate this word, but this is what they say. So we want to reframe this word, but nothing seems to work for that end. Number two. So number three, I really don't have any options but to end my life. That's the dirty secret of what happens. It's a desperate position because depression lingers on. So do we have a good idea of what Aga experienced with grief with his girlfriend? Some head nods. Yep. Okay. Do you understand that that grief experience is not any unlike the Hispanic population, the Russian population, the Chinese, right? Some head nods, right? That's depression-esque. Okay. And we want to know how to manage it. We want to know how to kind of get through that reality. So the big superpower here, right? We want to highlight superpowers a little bit. So I've said this thousands of times, like if I could burn this into your memory, I would like try to, zip a little computer thing there and like zap a laser right into your forehead. Not to be mean or to hurt you, but to burn this in, right? This next phrase, because I've said it thousands of times. It's super, super important if you have a depression condition. Okay. But it's also super, super important if you have a grief experience or you've just had chronic stress. We'll talk about that in a bit. That leads to a state of feeling down and depressed and whatnot. Ready to get laser burned? I'm not here. I'm not going to give you the burn. I get it. Is anybody ready to get laser burned? Okay, there's a little bit more science. Enemy number one to depression is isolation, right? That is a bottom line. So the reality of it is when you're feeling that way, when you're feeling down, when you're having a hard time, the superpower is to reach out. It's the number one concern, and I see some head thoughts, right? It's the number one concern. It's an absolute must. Think about it. When you're stuck in this state where your energy levels are down, your motivation is down, appetite, interests, all this stuff, which is really weird, by the way, about depression. Maybe a lot of clinicians who think about this stuff regularly that might be with us. Isn't it weird that when you have depression, the things that we know help you to be better are taken away? We know exercise improves your neurological functioning. Serotonin, dopamine, these things get stimulated and triggered. We know that nutrition helps your body to feel better. We know that when you have a sleepless night, how many ever had that? Hands raised. There's one, there's two. Yeah, the rest of your line. Right? Rest of your line. Yeah, there's a thumb icon, all right. Listen, we all have had that, and that makes us feel terrible. Talk about foggy brain. You almost can't function. So it catches you, depression does, doesn't it? It's weird. I've thought about that a lot over the years. The exact things you want to do to help yourself out are kind of negated and taken away. It's almost evil, right? So the number one superpower there is to be with people. You know, an example of that is we have a mastermind very recently, similar to the dramatic death of a famous figure. We've seen that far too many times. I have a personal friend right now in a mastermind group that I'm a part of, and his son tragically died. Just like that. 23-year-old young man. Very, very sad. Very just like, you know, as a parent, it'll just grab your heart and feels like it drops to the floor. Well, I'm really glad to say that we've been able as a group to kind of rally around him, and I won't say his name to protect his identity. I'll call him Thomas. Thomas is a fake name, but Thomas has people that are close to him, and he's not one to really reach out. And we've told him that you really got to do that, but we've been able to kind of reach in, and we've really engaged him, and he hasn't been alone in his own process. Now, he needed to be alone a little bit, and he wanted to be. So there's a lot that we could talk about, respecting people's space and, you know, this type of thing. But the idea, I mean, what is the theme for this conference here? You know, fostering connectedness, right? Okay, huge factor when it comes to these things that we deal with, such as grief and substance abuse as well, by the way, and depression. Okay, now I'd like to dispel another quick myth, and this drives me nuts as well, right? People have this crazy belief somehow developed in their childhood, I don't know, in their friendship structures, in their daily life, in their own thoughts and self-talk. You know, I don't want to let people know my weaknesses. I don't want to air my dirty laundry. You hear these expressions, right? You know, I want to be strong through this event. And, you know, I'm not saying it's bad to isolate a little bit, to be by yourself. Well, actually, to be by yourself, I'm going to say isolating is different than having space. And some people really need that space. Some people really need that connectedness. So there's a balancing act back and forth. Sorry, I thought I had a question there on the chat. I can see them, by the way. If something pops up with a lot of words, I'm going to be able to catch it. So please check in with me. Let me know what's up. So, you know, we've developed this idea that weakness is akin to talking about our emotions. Head nods again or something. Does that sound crazy? right? There's head nods, yes. How many people are as frustrated about that as I am? Some thumbs up.
It sounds crazy when you say it, Chris.
Doesn't it?
Yeah,
What do
it
you mean?
sounds crazy. I mean, when it's in your brain, you don't necessarily think it's crazy, but when you speak it, it sounds just super crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? I think that, thank you for that. I think that was Sarah, right? Thank you for that, because, I think even in our speaking to ourselves, we'll say this all the time. And it's nice to hear you say, when I say this out loud, how crazy this really sounds, but I'm making such a big point out of it because we think it so much, and it becomes normalized, and it becomes isolating. And I'm not trying to be too dramatic, but honestly, in some ways, when it comes to mental health and substance abuse and some of the other destructive things that we do, it can become deadly. It can actually become deadly. Like healthcare, we know lots of things can get us potato chips. And as my main office staff DW up front, who's awesome, if you ever get a chance to talk to her at Metrolina, the devil's food, McDonald's. It's my weakness. There's a lot of things in healthcare that can get us. When you think of the mental health care, and as we're talking about this false belief that we're weak if we talk about it, I want to reframe that to being courageous. What did I call him? Tony or Thomas? I think I called him Thomas, didn't I? Thomas has talked about this loss that he had. Aga from Russia shared with a crazy little boy from West Virginia, what he was going through with grief. Transcends cultural lines, transcends male and female, transcends old from young. Matter of fact, an interesting thing about elderly population and aging, which is part of what we're highlighting all this week. We're talking about caregiving. What's something interesting about emotions? Here's a little bunny trail for you. This is extra content. Our bodies change, right? As we get older and as we get, out of shape, unfortunately, or, what have you. I'm actually finding out now, like almost, I'm pushing 50 in a fast minute, 49 years old. That's how I am. I'll own it. I'll tell you, right? I can't go out in the yard morning until night and do all this stuff that I used to do. My body's changing. But you know what doesn't change? What I feel, what I experience, what my emotions are. You know why? I think because it's the same kind of experience that we have inside our bodies, back to our superhuman strengths, right? Power to deal with our emotions internal. Inside our bodies, the hormones are the same. Now they do change and they move around throughout life, but the hormone and the experience of feeling emotions with dopamine and serotonin and neurology and all that kind of stuff, when you're in love, feeling butterflies and whatever, when you're down, stressed out as an old 98-year-old person, or you're just kind of afraid of something that's happening medically, those are the same terrifying feelings that you had when you were 6 years old, middle of the night during a nightmare. And I think we forget that. That's how powerful mental health is from beginning of our life, literally, seriously, all the way through. Okay, I do digress, but that's something that I've thought about a lot. There's so much to cover in so little time. So how did we do with depression? I really want to pause thoughts that people have, power in a room or collective experience. Anything come up for you when you think about, depression and what I've described and what we're really experiencing? I may even call on you. See, the power of Zoom is I got names, Terry or Eddie. Are you guys thinking anything? Do we have a good understanding of depression? Therapists can be silent for a super long time and I can wait. Just kidding. I really did have to learn that though early on in my career. Like I'm talking to a person, I couldn't like shut up for a little while in therapy sessions and then would like, okay, Chris, you got to pull back and like chill out, be quiet for just a minute. I don't like how it's viewed as still not being real. Right. Who was that? Lance. Absolutely, man. That's a really good point, because how many people still, or pockets of people, I don't know, that just seems archaic to me. But I think that you're right, Lance, that people literally will think that this is fake. Somebody starts reaching out and telling somebody courageously what they're experiencing, and someone in their life blames them. or shuts them down or doesn't buy into, oh, you're just trying to get attention. How's that for cultural view on what we're experiencing? That's a stigma and a stereotype. Oh, you're not really suicidal. You're just trying to get attention. This is attention seeking behavior. No, it's not. And you know what? If it is, they're reaching out, give them what they need so that we can be safe. And I know there's some challenges in that whole process, but love that thought. I could go on about that for a while. People will say, what do you have to be sad about? Exactly. Karen, you have a great life. You live in America. So everybody in America, we have an awesome life. No reason to be stressed out. No reason to be depressed. We're wealthy. We're rich. We've got everything we could ever need. Might somebody say in the poorest sections of the world. No, you know what? It's biological. It's biochemical. And even though you're wealthy and seem to be well-to-do and your kids are doing super in school and everything we see on Facebook, like, it's real. It is real. It is very, very real. Yes, I hate hearing get over it. I got a whole story with that, but I can't digress. People say, I don't like how he's being real vicious cycle. Yeah. Thank you for that cycle there. And then we'll move on to anxiety. Because I did kind of forget to mention that. I said the depression never goes away, or I said something to that effect. You know what? It does for people that have the clinical condition, different than being stressed out or depressed or whatever. We know that depression is cyclical. It lasts about 6 to 8 weeks. Sometimes it can be, 2, 3, 4, 5 months in length. I mean, it does vary and whatnot. But we do know that depression, the clinical condition, operates cyclically. It goes in what we call episodes, a depression episode. And then it kind of goes away. But can you imagine if you're feeling that way for, like, let's just say 2.5 months chronically, and then it goes away. You're like, oh God, the very first time it just goes away. You're like, okay, great. I could breathe again. And then bang, it comes right back in at you. Now what am I going to do? And you wait 2, 3 months, goes away again. It's like, wow, how many times is this going to happen? Is this what my life is going to be like? Is what we begin to feel. Okay. All right, let's move on to anxiety, because that's another really big area and is exploring anxiety. See, common, more like stress versus anxiety conditions. Yeah, the main point that I want to make too with this is, we're not talking about it, which more so people say, I think, with anxiety. Yeah, I'm anxious today. Hey, I was anxious before I got on here to talk. I'm not going to lie. I get a little bit built up energy. I get a little built up, excitement. I don't want to come in flat. I want to do a good job. I want people to hear. I want to give a good message. I want to get some information out there, right? That creates energy. And that's a good energy. I mean, I felt pretty calm. I was happy. I had a nice latte a little while ago. Maybe that's why I'm so hyper, because I had a little latte. I had a decaf guy, but I do digress again. This isn't what we're talking about when we're talking about an anxiety condition, the realities, the chronicity, the depth of what it is that, that we feel like. You can look fine. Yeah, okay. I was just monitoring chat there. So I think I've made that point, the tale of two tapes, big overview of mental health, anxiety conditions. What are anxiety conditions? I wish there was a really cool way that we could, like depression, you really, really, really can understand depression through grief. There isn't really anything that you can do that with anxiety, really. Okay, anxiety is a little bit more difficult, and it's weird because we can mostly more identify, when we're feeling worked up or charged up or anxious in some sort of way. But I think it's really difficult to understand when somebody has an anxiety condition to get the full sort of breadth of what that feels like. So there are symptoms, and there's different symptoms for different types of anxiety. Let me give you what I like to give as an understanding of the conditions of depression is a volcano metaphor. Okay, this will be in your notes. And the volcano metaphor is a way to understand the different types of depression. Okay, so if you think about the world, right, you got the whole ball of the world. It's got different layers. Okay, you got topsoil, rock, groundwater, all this stuff. All I want you to think about is magma, lava, right? That's going to represent anxiety. And we know anxiety or lava comes up through the crust of the earth, right? That's volcanoes. So you might think, like actually my buddy Neil, who produces everything, by the way, for me, thought that we were highlighting the powerful explosion, which isn't really what the metaphor is about. So I don't want you to think about it that way. I want you to think about the volcanoes around the world. Okay, that represents the different types of anxiety. But the reason why I created this metaphor of the volcano is because, interestingly, about anxiety that I've seen through the years of doing therapy with people is it kind of comes from the same place. And I think this confuses a lot of people. Even if you understand that I've got panic disorder, but I've got other things like this that bothered me when I have an anxiety condition like panic disorder. Well, what's interesting is that lava comes from the same place and it comes through different volcanoes around the world. That's the different types of volcano. So you will have one primary volcano that's loudest, the bigger eruptions, the more activity and that type of a thing. But you'll have smoke in another one, or a minor eruption over here in another one, right? So I've just found over the years that anxiety kind of works that way. So here's the different types. Here's the different volcanoes around the world, if you will. So one is OCD. You get obsessed and stuck with your thinking. I'm not talking about, I'm really worried about something and I'm stuck on this. Like, no, you cannot get it out of your head. It's repetitive. It's a topic. It's just stuck. Or not, and by the way, or so younger clinicians out there, you can have OCD and have absolutely no compulsive behavior. You could just have obsessionary thinking. So, or compulsive behavior where you just feel like you have to wash your hands 10 times a day, right? OCD, you can have generalized anxiety. That's where you worry. Like you just cannot relax. You don't want to shut down. You're always kind of on the next thing. You're seeing a negative outcome. You know, if I had generalized anxiety disorder about an hour and a half ago, I would have seen that I would have gotten no responses. Nobody would care about what I was saying, and it would be a horrible experience. Right? That's worry factor. That's generalized anxiety. Then you got what else? Panic disorder. You have a panic attack. This is where people like literally have a feeling that they're having a heart attack. Oftentimes they will go to an emergency room. It's terrifying to go through that. Social phobia is another one, right? Where we're all afraid to meet new people. We're all afraid to speak in front of people. It's weird to put our cameras on and put ourselves out there. So we all have that, but I'm talking about terrifying feelings going in groups of people or meeting somebody new. Like there's a sense of terror to the point that you'll absolutely blow this stuff off. I'm not going to my daughter's wedding because that's going to stress me out. Like literally, guys, that's the level that social phobia can be had. What else? Simple phobias, intense fears about getting on the elevators or driving, right? I'm probably leaving a couple off, but I know you're not going to retain all that. What I really want you to understand is when you have anxiety, interestingly enough, you'll have other types. They move around. I don't know if you guys have realized that work in the field. Like sometimes I'm working in therapy with somebody and they'll talk about this crazy experience that was a panic attack. And I'll be like, wait a minute, I thought we were dealing with depression because they came in with their mom who died and that's what we were clinically focused on or whatever, but now they had a panic attack. There are things like that will trigger my brain. It's kind of like, wait a minute, we have a longer chronic experience with depression that's driving this mental health function with this person that I'm working with, because panic attacks aren't a typical experience that you would have. And then I'll get to know that person and work around with that person and I'll kind of figure out, oh, so little did I know we were doing all this stuff, but social phobia has been driving a wedge in your life, your entire life, right? That's the way anxiety works. It's so funny, guys. Funny for a lack of a better word, but you know what I mean, right? So we want to understand that there's these different types and they move around on you. And it can be really, really confusing when I'm feeling this level of intensity and then a little bit of that one and a little bit of that one. And I really don't know what's going on in my mind. Guess what people feel like? They feel crazy. I hate that word, by the way. Drives me nuts too. Nobody's crazy when it comes to what it is that we're feeling. No one's crazy when it comes to what it is that we're struggling with. No one's crazy when you think about, my internal process of emotion management. So what's our superhero for this one? Okay, your superhero strength for this one is kind of like, there's a lot of things that come up to me. So it was kind of funny when I was driving the superpower thing in to what I'm thinking about. How do I come up with one for anxiety management? We have a tools list at the end of this whole conference of 180 things. But I thought, you know what? There's a really, really cool basic thing that we all do every single day that can be easy to kind of figure out. This is really depthy to do it, but it's easy to figure out, and this helps immediately with our levels of anxiety. Any guesses? What might this be, our superpower, as it relates to anxiety? I'm going to check out the chat box. Social phobia is a real win in school. I used to take a 0 on it. Yeah, there you go. I'm going to take a 0 instead of doing this test just to get out of it. Absolutely. Yeah, you got it, Karen. You got it, Ainsworth, Kim, Nancy. That wasn't too hard. Breathe. Now I get energetic when I give presentations for a reason. But when I just did that, like I can literally feel nice. I want to do it again. If you'll just oblige me. It's a nice little break from life for that 10-second, 5-second span. And it literally, I think, right there changed my physiology right as I stand here. Right? That's how powerful breathing can be. And meditation, when you add it to that, that's a whole nother world. Incidentally, one of my co-hosts, his name is Craig Graves. He is awesome at some of this stuff. He's an unbeatable mind life coach. We've talked about on our show many times. He comes on and he could spend an hour or 2 or 3 talking to you about breathing. That's a little bit of foreshadowing for what we're going to talk about at the end of the month. I was going to leave it at there. So anxiety, did we do a good job there? Questions, thoughts, anything that we're thinking about? I love thoughts back and forth. Music helps some. Yeah, definitely. Eddie, that's absolutely true. Sarah, I guess I needed a lot of help in my life, but I'm nailing the chat box a little bit. Any other thoughts on anxiety? I'll do that therapist trick and be silent for a little while if need be.
We all need a little help from our friends, Chris.
Ideal.
It always helps. And you were describing my mother.
Oh no, how so?
When you talk about being anxious and not being able to go into social situations, and I'll just give you one example. Went to pick her up for my brother's wedding, and she laid on the bed with just her underwear on. And I said, "Mother, are you going?" And you have to realize this has been a history with her for many, many years. And she said, I just can't go. And I said, "Oh, okay." At that point, what do you do? I didn't know what else to do.
We feel a lot of stuckness. And, I appreciate that very much. Eddie said comedy helps. And exercise is great for anxiety. You're right. There are these things, and these are great answers. So keep them coming. Just, help everyone else to think of things maybe. So keep them coming in the chat box. I don't want to squash that. But what I want to say is, like you just said with your mom, right? Like part of the challenge is understanding, taking a step back, that the depths of this stuff grabs you. It really grabs you, such that somebody there said, very courageously, by the way, right? Like social phobia sucks hardcore, right? I would take 0s on my test. That's better option than to go into this pressure cooker of a classroom that's going to squash me and make me feel horrible into a little size, and I'm going to plop out onto the floor and just melt. That sounds crazy, but is that what it feels like? When you're really in it and experiencing it. Yeah. I thought somebody was jamming in there. Yeah, go to your happy place. That's the Pittsburgh Steelers playoff game tonight, 7:00 when they beat the Rangers. That would be very helpful for my anxiety. But again, I do digress. Fun to explore stress real quick. And I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, and I'm aware of the time as we speak. Reason why I didn't want to spend a whole lot of time on stress is because I think we all get it. We get stressed out. It's pretty common, universal condition. And I don't want to say condition because I just laid that out. So I should use a different word, experience, right? We all get stressed out. We all get overwhelmed. We all get full of tension. Those are some of the things we feel. Those are some of the things we experience. And when you use the word stress in our broad cultural vernacular, like I said, that we have, it's probably on target, right? It's not, you're using the word stress and it's probably something else. No, it might be a condition, and we do need therapists or preachers or friends to help us identify that we're not experiencing just stress. It's actually something more. That's very, very so. But generally, we really get stressed, and I have a superpower strength for this as well. People in the field know what this is called. I don't know how to give a hint. Anyone have any idea what might be a good answer to just being stressed? The superpower strength or superpower strategy is drink. Yes, sir. Love it. That's fantastic. Drink a lot. Laugh. Right. There's something specific I'm thinking about that a lot of people in my field call self-care. Okay. Fun, relaxing, enjoyable activities that help us just to distract ourselves from the world, things that we're stressed out, help us to pull back, and then we chill, and then we launch back into what it is that we're needing to deal with. So self-care is a cornerstone of mental health. I'll do that laser burn thing again, right? Okay. Burn into your minds that self-care is the cornerstone of mental health, because we all really need to do that as we go through different things that are in our life. Could be 5 minutes in length, could be 5 weeks in length, could be thousands of dollars on a trip to the Bahamas. Yes. Or 5 minutes playing Star Wars Heroes on your phone when somebody is in your lobby waiting on you. It's true. I have actually done that. I hate to admit that. It's not coming up quick enough. There's the headliner, right? Just because I need a minute. I need a minute. I'm done with this therapy session. Been 3, 4 in a row, and I will literally get a daily attack in. And I don't even feel guilty about it. Because when I go to that next session, man, I want to be on point. I want to be engaged. I want to be full me in doing what I do. And I need that. So I want you to give permission to use your superhero strength to deal with stress through self-care. Avoidance on hold, perhaps. Yeah, that's why with self-care, good point. I like, Kim says you get an A+. Ooh, I do, or somebody else does. Yeah, it's a good point. I'm glad you said the avoidance. What we're not doing with self-care is just running over here and avoiding things. We're running over here, bubbling out, take a break, get chilled out, and then we back engage. It's important, that engagement part, because you have to come back. If I played Star Wars Heroes for the rest of this afternoon, that probably wouldn't be a best therapist move. So we don't want to avoid. We just want to take a break. So we talked about depression, and we talked about reaching out. We talked about anxiety. We talked about breathing. We talked about stress, and we talked about the idea of self-care. Okay, we need to taxi in for a landing here, unfortunately. I'd love to spend another couple hours with you guys, honestly. I love talking about this stuff because I want to blow up stereotypes, myths, and stigmas about mental health and substance abuse, and I want to disseminate as much information as I can. Questions, thoughts, depression, anxiety, stress, and then I'm going to taxi us in for a soft landing. Great presentation. Well, thank you for your kind word. That's awesome. Okay to take some time for yourself. Absolutely, Eddie. Rock it. Do it. Particularly if it's the Pittsburgh Penguin hockey game against the Rangers tonight for the first game of the playoffs. We really can't lose again, guys. Oh, that would go bad. The Word of God, religion, faith traditions, huge component of a lot of our mental health. Couldn't agree more. Pets are great relief. Pet therapy. I literally have started to bring my dog in on Wednesdays. It's awesome. I've enjoyed Sadie coming in and hanging out here with me. That's a great relief. So, okay. So let me taxi us in here. Oh, first of all, real quick too, I want to highlight, it's another free solution. Neil, I think if you're still around, you can pop up on the screen somehow or something. Maybe I need to stop talking and you can put it up. We've got a podcast that we've got through Therapist's Eyes. It's free information. It'll be on the It's funny. I'm thinking Neil now. I was going to say show notes, but that's a different talk. It's a different engagement. How would they find us, Neil? Did we have anything refresh me, or did he check out?
No, I'm still here. Of course I didn't
Okay.
check out. Not for you, Chris.
All right, man.
Um, but no, we have a website, throughatherapist's where all of our stuff is hosted. We do have a special sign up for the handout based on today's conversation. I know we gave you the blank one before, but we'll give you the one that, kind of covers Chris's notes to kind of line up with. And then that same link will also give you an email of the tool list when he does his next presentation. So go to the website, sign up for the handout, and then also anything we do with the show is going to be on the website.
That's a great resource. I love the word free. We have actually, Sarah, it's funny when you did the intro, I heard you, and I think I maybe need to update my media bio. Hopefully it said 180 because we have like way more than 80 episodes at this point. I kind of chuckled inside myself. I wasn't sure if you were going to say anything, but I love giving presentations. So if I can come to your organization and do this or something else like it, I'd love to be able to do that. We've got some cool things coming out where we're going to do a class, I think, on sexual abuse surviving. I'm super excited about creating some video content with that. It'll be on the Through a Therapist's Eyes website. Got that book out, Re-Understanding Emotions and Becoming Your Best Self. Writing another book now on marriage. Does that sound interesting? I'm not getting much, not a lot of videos, but yeah, that's going to be kind of fun to do something that I think affects a lot of people, our marriages. So there's some cool things out there, and I'd love to come see it at your place. So the goal for all of us, young and new, with this superhero reality that we've kind of talked about, is to harness what we learn. You've got an awesome series coming up the next few weeks to look at grief and substance abuse and isolation and some really specific things. I want to challenge you to pick up one or two things from each one of those things. Not 10, not 20. I know I kind of put a lot of information out today about these things. I want you to grab on to what you can grab onto, because every time you do that, you're increasing your now young superhero strength that we grow and grow and grow. And it doesn't grow unless you're purposeful to do that, so that we can focus on the fight within. I think this is a perennial battle that we have in our lives. Now, I know I'm a therapist and I can be a little dramatic and my flaring presentation style of whatever. I feel like this is the human emotional condition. It's one of the reasons why I say it on the show every time in the beginning of the show, the human emotional experience. Let's figure this thing out together. I say that for a reason on our show, because I believe we all really need to be purposeful about doing that, right? And so this battle within, people will talk about it in religious circles. They'll talk about it in success seminars. They'll talk about it in coaching. They'll talk about it in so many various ways. We're talking about it in the context of mental health and substance abuse, because to me, this is the perennial reality of trying to figure out how we're going to make way throughout this time that we have on this beautiful earth. So I really want you to get in on this biggest, baddest battle, the fight within that we all have. There's people like me out there to help you. Like Sarah said, we all need a little support as we go along. Don't fight this fight alone, and reach out, breathe, do self-care, and we got more coming for you this month. Take care, and guys, thank you so much for having me. I'll see you again in a few weeks.
Wow, thank you. Yay! That was awesome. We appreciate you so much, Chris, for having just a wonderful start to our spring conference. And it was just a great hour. It was a great hour. Thank you.
That's awesome. I don't know, Neil, you might be able to put in my website or our email contact. I'm available, email, contact Through a Therapist's Eyes. Doesn't have to stop here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So we have one or two other things. So I'm going to turn it over to Anna Rogers. Those of you that were with us last year at our virtual spring conference know that we did a door prize after every session. And so that is true again of this year. So Anna is coming into view.
No.
You gotta
You
come
gotta
up
talk
here.
to the owl, otherwise
Okay.
it'll read that.
Okay.
Guys, if you can see me on Lisa Allen's screen. Kelly, you're gonna draw a name.
I have already picked my victim. So before we started today, I picked a number. So, Sarah Jane mentioned that Naomi Judd just lost her battle with depression, and she was born on January 11th. So I picked number 11, and the 11th person to sign in today was Christine Gibson. So Christine is our lucky winner today.
And Christine. Christine, you get your own superpower shirt. And it says, "What is my superpower?" on the back, designed by our intern, Rosalind Wilkinson. You get a matching bag, Southwestern Commission. You get some goodies, a stone coaster and a color changing cup. And you get this Better Homes and Garden cake plate, the acrylic that converts to a fruit and veggie tray. And at the end of the conference, everyone who has participated in at least 2 conferences or two meetings in the conference, we will draw for a robotic pet. Okay. This is Henry. He's our robotic pet. Speaking of pet therapy, this is our golden, and he can be yours if you attend 2 of our conference meetings.
Can we
Yay!
put it up for bid? Can we go for bids on this?
We might like that too.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hey, Chris, if you'll send me an email with your t-shirt size and an address for us to be able to get that to you, that would be helpful. I think you have my email. If you'll get that to us, we'll make that happen.
Yes,
To get
ma'am.
what?
Thank you.
Okay, good deal.
To get what?
It's just like, I want one too.
Christine.
Christine. All right, wrapping us up today. Thank you again so much for being with us. I think it was an awesome start to our conference. We look forward to seeing you next week for It's Real with Lisa Duber. And have a great week. Go out and enjoy the sunshine. And, in a little bit of rain brings out the rainbows and the sunshine a little more. Again, Chris, thank you so much for being with us. Neil, we appreciate your help as well. And we'll see y'all next week with your superpowers. Bye.